Welcome back, everyone. I'm Carissa Kranz. This is The Laws That Matter. Thank you for joining us for another week here. Every show we try to make a difference, but today, before we get into our featured guest, let's talk about some legal news, legal vegan news. Specifically, there is a landmark case lawsuit that was just filed against the USDA for nutritional racism, basically, which is what we've been covering here on the show for the last few weeks. Vegans in defense of Black Lives Matter. And now we have a case where mainstream Latinos and Blacks and immigrants have joined together to file a lawsuit against the USDA for slaughterhouse workers being deprived of their basic civil liberties. So this is breaking news and great legal news and such a step forward in the right direction as we are trying to make our mark in this world to have a more compassionate planet. And speaking of compassionate planet, with us is Thomas Jackson. Hi, Thomas. Thomas is the director and producer of A Prayer for Compassion, which is a documentary that is all about extending our circle of compassion as spiritual beings to all beings on this planet and all life, and whether or not that's possible. So thanks for joining us. It's a pleasure to have you.
Yeah, thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here. Thanks, Carissa.
Yeah, so I watched the documentary. I had Victoria Moran on a couple of weeks ago, and I love Victoria. And you two are both these amazing spiritual beings on this planet who are really trying to extend spirituality into a realm of consciousness and connectedness that right now a lot of good people don't recognize or don't make the connection. They might be awake in many ways, but they're not awoke on this topic. So, where would you like to begin? I mean, it's a loaded question. Is it possible in our lifetime to extend our circle of compassion to all beings? Are you optimistic about that?
Yeah, I'm very optimistic. You know, I don't think we really have a choice because of what's happening with the planet, what's happening with human health. There's so many reasons that we must do this now. And I'm also optimistic because I know that that everybody I've met in the last year and a half, 2 years, 3 years, traveling with the film and making the film, everybody, whether they're living a vegan lifestyle or not, they're all vegan in their heart. You can see that they all have compassion. And one of the things that led me to make the film is that I've always thought that religious people and spiritual people are just naturally connected to compassion. So once I went out and started interviewing people, what I discovered is that all traditions are in alignment with a vegan lifestyle. They all have their teachings of compassion. Like if you're in any religion, you're living a vegan lifestyle, you are living the ideal of compassion when it comes to their teachings. You know? And there's other things we'll talk about later. Like I'm not saying that every religion also has ways that you can read it and you can justify whatever you want to justify, unfortunately.
Right.
So it really comes down to what I think Jesus taught a lot about this, when they were talking about the spirit of the law and the letter of the law, it really comes down to measuring these laws and these verses that may or say it's okay, and looking at them in the context of history, as well as looking at them in the context of Jesus's direct teachings. I mean, when you do that and you meditate on it, it's very easy to see that none of the things that are happening in the animal agriculture industry, from the suffering of the animals to the destruction of the planet to human health, and now we're discovering, the pandemics are being caused by the animal agriculture, and hungry people. So, it used to be 4 reasons for me, and now it's 5. Like there's 5 major reasons why I believe all spiritual and religious people should meditate on these reasons and then decide, like, do you want to support an industry that's doing this, or do you want to support life and support what most religions are talking about, which is kindness and compassion for all beings?
So basically, what side of history do you want to be on? So you mentioned there are 5 areas that made you want to choose a compassionate diet and compassionate lifestyle, which is a vegan lifestyle. What are those 5? It would be health, it would be environment, it would be compassion for animals, it would be spirituality, which is, I think, an untapped inspirational motivation for many people. That's the next movement, I think, for people to transition into this movement. But what's the fifth? What did I miss?
I'll tell you, first of all, I became vegan personally just for spiritual reasons. I didn't know any vegans. It was before YouTube. I wasn't seeing the videos. I just had started a regular meditation practice, and I was attending a Unity church, taking workshops and all of this on like compassion, interconnectedness. So it was a natural thing that came out of me because I grew up in the South and I saw animals killed for food. So inside my mind, even though I'd put that to sleep somewhere, once I started checking in every day and meditating, like I started realizing, hey, this food that I'm eating was once an animal that was alive and now it's dead. And I don't feel like that's part of my spiritual growth. I don't think that's going to help me grow spiritually. I don't think it's part of my spiritual path. And so I naturally moved away. But so for me, spirituality embraces all of them. So I don't even include spirituality. That's why I enjoyed making this film, because.
So what was the fifth then? So
well, you have your health, or you have suffering animals. You have the health of people and health of the planet, and you have hungry people, because there's so much food. World hunger, so much food that the animals that wouldn't even be here eat 5 times the food that humans eat. So that right there tells you that we don't have to have hungry people. And the fifth one is now that pandemics. That's the fifth one.
Okay. Yeah. I think that's almost like 6. I would say spirituality is 1. World hunger and planetary concern of other beings, human beings and animals, is 2. Yeah. That would encompass world hunger and pandemics, because humans are suffering at the hands of humans killing animals. Then there's the environment. Then there's our health. And then what did I miss? Health, environment, animals, spirituality, and probably a global awareness of concern for all beings, not just animals, because all beings, human beings, are also being affected by the meat dairy industry, which is actually right in alignment with the lawsuit that I just brought up at the top of the hour against the USDA. These are mainstream people. These are not vegans. These are slaughterhouse workers who are banding together to file a lawsuit against the government, basically saying that being forced to work in slaughterhouse conditions amidst a pandemic is a total disregard for human life, because these are the biggest hotspots for COVID probably on the planet, but definitely in the United States. And their lives are at risk, and they've now been deemed essential. So they have been stripped of their civil liberties to file a lawsuit for wrongful death or injury. So now they're filing this lawsuit against the USDA on the grounds that the meat industry is receiving federal funding every year and bailouts. And because they're receiving bailouts, they're not allowed to discriminate. So they are saying that by employing these slaughterhouse workers that are Black, Latino immigrants who are underpaid and forced to go to work and stripped of their civil liberties is now a civil rights action. So it's a perfect example of planetary problems amidst the pandemic and then global hunger, but because of animal agriculture. But then to get back to the spirituality side of things, I think that there's like different levels of spirituality and spiritual growth. There's among that evolution, which we all go through as humans, is the evolution of our connection to all that is around us, and then making the connection to the connection we strive to have. And that, to me, ultimately turns into being aware of all others, aware of the planet, and aware of the animals. That's part of the progression towards enlightenment, if you ask me. What did you learn most by making this film?
Well, there's several things that I learned, and there's ways that it's changed me. One of the main things that I learned growing up in the Christian tradition, I had no idea how much the Bible supported the vegan lifestyle. I really was surprised by that. I was surprised that in Genesis, Jeffrey Cohen from Jewish Veg nails this in the film. He really breaks down one of God's, his first conversation with man, and it's Genesis 26, 126 through 129. And in that, we get the instructions to eat a plant-based diet. And what's funny is that he explains 2 verses before that, where we get the instructions to eat only a plant-based diet, we are given dominion over the animals, which means, which right there tells you that okay, 2 verses later, you're told not to eat animals. So obviously, dominion does not mean eating animals. And the other thing I learned after the film, just about this
Yeah,
particular
dominion would be more protection of the animals. Like God has
yes,
dominion over
yes,
us, and He wants the
yes,
best for
yes,
us. He looks out for us, and that means that should extend to us overlooking the animals because we are supposed to be made in God's image.
exactly. And another thing that I didn't know making the film that I've discovered later is that in the next verse, when God looks at Adam and he sees Adam is lonely, what does God do? You know, most people think he created Eve, but when he saw Adam was lonely, he created animals. And he let Adam name the animals, name his friends. So right there in the Bible, it's showing animals were created to be our friends. You know, that we give them names. You don't give names to what you're about to kill and eat. So right there in the early part of the Bible, the ideal is set up, and it's saying, you know, it's like nonviolent. It's being as peaceful to all beings as you can and not eating animals. And then, you know, but unfortunately, there are places in the Bible where God eventually gives reluctant permission to people. And when he does that, he says, man has been evil from his youth, and the fear and dread will be placed in the animals. And this is right after the Noah and the ark. He gave Noah this permission. But then in Isaiah, we come back to the peaceful kingdom where everybody is vegan again, and animals aren't killing each other. And so this is what I learned, this progression. That was nice. I'd never really that hadn't been pointed out. But one of the biggest things that has shifted for me making the film, you know, getting to meet so many amazing people and asking them questions and spending time with them. One of the people that has made the most difference for me is Dr. Silas Rao. I got the opportunity like to spend a lot of time, like, and last year we went back to India and we did a whole tour showing the film. But what I learned from him, and it's in the first film, is two of the things he said really shifted the way I do activism and the way I speak to people. One of the things he said, and I've seen him do it and I do it too, is that when you have a group of people, he will ask, would anybody here ever unnecessarily hurt an innocent animal? And no one, and I do it too, no one's ever raised their hand and said, yeah, man, bring me that rabbit, you know, like I really want to do it. No, everybody, and he says, congratulations, you're all vegan. And
right. That's what you said at the beginning. If you have a vegan heart, if you care about animals, you care about others, even if you're not there with your diet because you haven't made the connection, you're a vegan, because that's a movement for compassion and justice.
Yeah, your true compassionate nature. Everybody's true compassionate nature is vegan. And, you know, so that's changed me in the way I talk to people. The second thing he did is he talked about when what we say and what we do are out of alignment, we suffer. And when he said it in 2016, I didn't understand it. But making the film, I got to meet so many people that healed themselves of so many illnesses and lifestyle diseases, and doctors that were doing the same. And while I was doing that, I was watching several members of my family having surgeries and taking medications, and all for things I'm watching other people heal themselves for. You know, so it really dawned on me that when we're not in alignment, when we're not living that vegan lifestyle, there's so many ways that we can suffer. There's people with depression. There's so many things veganism or, you know, a plant-based diet and non-violent diet will cure. So those two things have me talking to everybody as if they're already vegan. So when I speak to somebody who's not vegan, I don't feel angry at them because they're part of the problem. I look at them and I have compassion because they must be suffering. I look for their suffering and I try to speak to them with compassion, because the anger, they can't hear you, they get defensive. The trick is trying to keep people from getting defensive. Exactly. And one of the best ways is coming with compassion and concern for them. You know, and remembering that most of us, you're the exception, and there's a few other exceptions out there, but most of us weren't raised vegan. Most of us
Victoria's daughter is another exception. I know most of us. No. Well, now it's a little bit starting to become more common, but not when I was born. I was an outcast by being raised vegan, and I was the one judged. So I know what it feels like to be judged. And I was the one that was like, "Let me eat my carrots in private. Like, just leave me alone. I want to eat my greens. Like, I want my tofu. Don't ask me what it is and say, ooh, what's that?" Yeah, it wasn't fun growing up vegan, but in that sense, but it was also something I was unwilling to compromise because I made the connection at a very young age. You know, I was born vegan and raised vegan by my mom, but when my parents divorced when I was about 5 years old, my dad was not vegan, and at the time, the food pyramid was all about meat and dairy, and I went to his house and he would want to feed me that. He would think I needed my protein, I needed my calcium. That's what the USDA guidelines said, and to me, I didn't care about my health. I was not eating an animal. That's what it came down to. Yeah. So, but Yeah, there's definitely a spiritual connection to be made with all of this, and to speak to people in a way that will inspire them and not put them on the defense. And I think that that's one thing that religion has working for and against us. Like you made some really good arguments, referring to biblical law. Like, these are the laws that matter. And you are referring to biblical law, which is in essence a reflection of these universal higher laws, supposedly. And religion is giving us structure to the ideals that we're actually supposed to have in place, which is compassion and kindness and extending that circle beyond ourselves to others, to all life, and having the smallest footprint possible. But sometimes I think we get caught up in the whole religious infrastructure of different religions, which then puts our movement and our speech for spirituality on the defense, because then we're feeling like we need to quote other verses of this hearsay text. It's really all hearsay, that we need to quote these other parts of the text in order to prove that this is that we are supposed to be compassionate. And I think that that's maybe we're focusing on the wrong people if we're having to argue the Bible and the parts of it that we feel justify our movement, when there are so many people out there who are into meditation, who are into new age spirituality, who are into compassion and kindness and source energy and the light. And those people are actually on the path and striving and are a vegan heart, and they have not made the connection yet. They're all about, I want to meditate, I want to be in alignment, I want to feel connected, but there's something there that hasn't clicked yet, but it can click. And well, I believe it can click. I was born and raised vegan, but I love talking to people like you and Victoria, and Will Tuttle's another one, who come to this realization over spirituality, and something within you clicks. And I want to know how you changed after that click. You're approaching other people from a point of compassion so they don't go on the defense to try to be more successful in your approach. But how did you change once you made the connection?
When I first became vegan?
Yes, because you knew in the past that they were suffering. You saw animals dying, but you excluded them from your thought process because you saw religious leaders doing that. So you were able to compartmentalize, like most people on this planet can do. Most people compartmentalize. They wouldn't kill an animal with their own hands. They are feeding the problem by buying the meat at the store or in the restaurant, but they are not spiritually part of the problem. They're not there. But so how will they change spiritually when they make that connection and say, I'm gonna cut it out for 30 days? How long do they need to even cut it out for them to feel something?
Well, I think 30 days is enough to really start feeling the difference, because it really, a doctor in India told me it takes over 2 weeks for dairy to get out of your system. So you need to give it over the 2 weeks and another couple weeks to clear it out and try to eat whole and healthy. I'll tell you, when I became vegan in 2005, I didn't know any vegans, and I really thought I might get sick and die. I didn't know. I bought into, we've all been indoctrinated into this culture. This is what I want people to understand when they speak to somebody. We've all been indoctrinated. We've been told it's normal, natural, and necessary, because that was the key for me, the necessary. I came to a point where I decided I'm willing to just fade away than do what's necessary and cause violence. But what I discovered is that I didn't get sick. I kept going to the gym. I kept working out. I kept making gains, and I felt better, and I felt more peace. Where I used to have anxieties and depression, that went away. And since I've made the film and making the film, and all the vegans I talk to, I've heard story after story of how much more peace you feel, when you know you're not contributing. The hardest part is that you start to notice the rest of the world, and you start noticing that we're in a place that's kind of a little scary. The violence that is accepted is very scary if you look at it on that level. So it becomes a place of really, for me, meditation is the key. I just ask everybody, whatever religion you are, it's not about, you can meditate on any religion. Just really go within and speak to that part within you. Jesus taught, go within. The kingdom is within. Go within and find that place of peace. And it will change people. I've seen it change their life, their health, but also most people say now the spiritual thing, a lot of times it's 6 months to a year when there's this big thing where they go, wow, like you feel this connection to people and animals in a way you didn't feel before. People, and I met people that came in for environment. I met people that came in for health. I met that had all these people had no interest in what was going on with the animals. But once it was out of their body and they were not implicit in it anymore, they didn't have to shut their eyes to what was happening. Because when you're participating, you want to close your eyes. But I'm going to tell you a secret about karma. Karma doesn't care. Karma doesn't care if you're looking or not. You know what I mean? Karma's going to come and hit you one day, and it'll make you look. And
Right.
I got hit in many ways.
That's
I did
karmic
a lot of
law.
yes, and I suffered in many ways. And I'm not going to say when I came vegan, my suffering ended, because it didn't. But a lot of unnecessary suffering ended. All
It's the
religions
human
talk about
dilemma.
suffering.
The
Yes.
human dilemma is always going to face trials and tribulations. And it's how we deal with it and how we learn our lessons. And are they going to be painfully taught or joyfully shared? And think talking to the people that are open, that are on the spiritual path, if we can get to those people are the people who will listen. You know, I always say living your life, you know, as a lawyer here, living your life is about you have a choice, right? You can either just live it and do your thing. You have your resolve. You're confident in your resolve. That's your way. And you can proceed that way, which is like wearing the hat of a prosecution. I'm going to prove my case. The way I live my life is going to be the best evidence. And I don't need to prove anything to anyone else because my life is the proof. And then you could say, I have made up my mind. I know that this is the way we should be. And I'm going to go deal with all these people who disagree with me, which then puts me on the constant defense, which then you're living your life on the defense, trying to explain and prove yourself to people who are exhausting you mentally because they just don't get it, when it's a waste of energy, because there are so many people who will get it and do get it, who are veg curious, who are compassionate and empaths. I happen to think that some of the most sensitive people on this planet, who I run a law firm, for example, and I've had very sensitive, compassionate, and empaths as staff members, and I have noticed that they haven't handled the stress well in the law firm environment and the litigation and the negativity, and they become depressed. They get anxiety ridden. And I think that empaths on this planet, compassionate people on this planet who do feel anxious, overwhelmed, and depressed, are probably picking up on the energetic level of the fact that we are murdering almost 1 trillion animals a year on this planet to feed 6 billion people. So when you are taking away life and causing that kind of massive suffering, how can an empath and a compassionate person, not on a psychic level, going through their daily life, become completely depressed and anxious over something that they think, oh, it's work or it's this or it's that, but really they're picking up on this global connected energy that's making them depressed because this planet is a disaster. We are a complete disaster.
Yeah. You know, a couple things I want to comment about what you said. One is, you know, I interviewed a lot of people that were doctors and different people, and they can give me like scientific reasons why people get sick when they eat dairy or eat meat. They can give me scientific reasons why it's destroying the planet. They can do all these things, but I'm going to tell you that I can feel in my heart, and when I meditate, what I feel is that we all have a collective karma. Mm-hmm. That there's this thing going on. When so many of us are choosing to create death and suffering and ingest it. Because for me, the first thing that happened when I was meditating all the time is that I was eating and I felt this energy doesn't feel right. The energy in the food felt sad, and so people are eating misery, they're eating violence, they're eating all these things, and we wonder, why are there epidemics in depression? Why are there epidemics? We know there are health epidemics, but there's a lot of mental health epidemics too. And I've met so many vegans that really came into it for whatever reason, but used to suffer mental health issues. And now taking the violence out of their diet really made a difference. Mm-hmm. So I think, it's really hard. And the other thing I'll say too is for the people that are empath, that are already vegan, that are doing the suffering, like I'm working on another film called Compassion in Action, Bringing the Elixir Home. I've been doing it since we finished, and I've interviewed people along the way. And last year, about a year ago today, at the AR conference in Washington, D.C., I interviewed Dr. Melanie Joy and vegan psychologist Claire Mann. And both of them, the thing I really wanted to talk to them about was effective communication, and also with our families, because it is not unusual. You grew up vegan, so it maybe with your dad you can understand it, but it's not unusual for vegans to try to explain to their family and get nowhere. Like, I made this film.
It's exhausting. You go in circles, and then that. So for me, I was never actually an activist. I was never a vegan activist. I was just a subtlist. I've said that to Jane before, Jane Velez Mitchell, Jane on Jane News Network here. I've said I'm a subtlist, and she's like, "That's brilliant. Did you make that up?" I'm like, "Yeah, I think I did." But like, I just lived my life, and I chose this way because being an activist when I was young against family and friends, I felt so judged. I was the outcast. I wasn't supposed to be vegan. Vegan wasn't healthy back then. Vegan wasn't normal. Vegan, everything I was eating was weird. My friends made fun of me. So, I think that it's really important to approach it with the right lens, like you said.
Yeah. And also I hope the new film will help take away some of the stigma of the word activist. When we were in India, we went to Stylish and spoke at a lot of schools, colleges and elementary and junior high. We were speaking at a junior high school, and we were talking to the principal, and somebody mentioned activism, and he said, "Activists, they're all thugs." He just said all this stuff. We're like, "Oh no!" but when Stylish finished speaking, he was talking to the principal stood up to the students, and first he was getting them to think about all the big animals that didn't eat meat, and then he said, "May we all hope to be activists one day." He saw, because what I want to say is activism, it can take many shapes. Activism can be baking a vegan cake and taking to somebody. Activism can be in so many forms. What I really want to teach people is that we have to learn to meditate, be present with people. POV, be present, be open, and be vulnerable. If you can do this in a conversation with somebody, and Claire, one of the things Claire talks about is when we're talking to somebody and anybody feels like guilt, fear, shame, or any of these negative emotions, the blood wants to run back to the back of our brain, to the reptilian brain, and we want to run away, or we want to yell at them. This is why sometimes suddenly you're like, why do I want to get away from here? It's just, and we're all so connected that when it happens to one, it wants to happen to the other. So we have to learn to be present in what we are, see when we trigger somebody, and then be able to communicate them in a way to pull them back. And also realize, first of all, we didn't create all the problem. We don't have to solve everything. It's about planting seeds and watering and fertilizing what other people plant. Learn to be present where people are, and then walk away, leaving people feeling good that vegans are nice and compassionate, knowing that the universe is going to bring another vegan and another vegan. And with family, one of the best advice I got with family is that, I think we're also intertribal, like in the days of the caves. Like if somebody got kicked out of the tribe, they're going to get eaten or they're going to die of hunger. So we have this fear of being different. This is what I decided about watching people watch the film and not change in my family. I think they want to be like their community. So we have to, Claire said, you go around to the lowest hanging fruit of the people on the fence in their community, and you normalize it. So what we're trying to do, don't spend a lot of time arguing with people. Move on to the person you can convince. Normalize it in our society, and the shift will happen. It's already happening.
It is already happening. The world is so different now than when I was growing up. It's definitely happening, and and we are so much better off when we can take our energy, our positive energy, and put it towards people who are receptive and open to taking it in, rather than putting us on the defense where they're not open. If they're putting you on the defense, they're not open to the message, and that's okay. Someone else might get to them, or maybe they need a different form of activism. Like you said, some people can get to people through spirituality. Other people can get through it through hard activism and taking the streets and showing slaughterhouses, which is more like the PETA approach. Other people can get to it by making it cool, hip, healthy, plant-based. But there's a whole community of spiritual beings out there. And I feel like that is the least tapped. that we are turning into an environmental movement for veganism. We have the animal rights movement already. We have the health movement. We know that the World Health Organization has already labeled processed meat as a class 1 carcinogen and unprocessed meat as a class 2 carcinogen, which is basically right up there with tobacco and asbestos. So we know it's bad for us. And now there are campaigns right now to ditch dairy from the USDA guidelines. The meat and dairy industry is failing, but they're getting hundreds of millions of dollars, billions of dollars of government buyouts, which is now turning into funds to enslave for indentured servitude, basically, our own kind who are minorities, which goes to racial nutritionism. And it's a vicious cycle. But I think you said something else that was really important that I want to highlight. I think you said, some people become vegan for one reason. Maybe it's their health, or maybe it's the environment. But once they become vegan, there's a difference between having a vegan diet and choosing it plant-based for, one of those reasons. I think becoming vegan is you've made the connection. You've awoke. You're now in alignment. You now understand that you're vegan because of all of those reasons. It's not just for the animals. You realize the interconnectedness of man's connection and relationship to nature. And I think these pandemics that we're dealing with right now and our deforestation and the complete catastrophe that our planet is in, that we will not continue to survive as humanity, is because Mother Nature is trying to intervene and give us a message, because we must wake up faster. We must wake up faster. So I want to go back to something that you said. You said, I like this term. Why do you call yourself a vegangelist?
A vegangelist. A vegangelist.
Vegangelist.
Yeah, well, I tell you, the lady, I forget her name. I was looking for the book today. I couldn't find it. Somebody gave me a book in Seattle. It's called Vegangelism, I believe. But I had already heard the term. But at some point, I realized that I started calling myself a vegangelist because I realized I had the gospel. Because I don't know if you know, gospel just means good news. I have the gospel.
No,
I have the good news that the more you align yourself with your true compassionate nature, the better you're going to feel. The better it is for your health, the better it is for your connection to whatever spiritual path you're on and to all of creation. The better, I feel more creative, the more, and guess what? Vegans can be more aligned with their true compassionate natures too. Surprise. This is why part of the film, I created a compassionate living challenge. And if you go to the website, it talks about my 4 pillars, but it also gives you suggestions to do, because it's really right now, I didn't get to explore it in that film, but in this film, besides effective communication, I'm trying to explore self-care and self-compassion, because so many activists are burning out and they're not being as effective as they could be. This is what I want. I see so many passionate people out there, and all I want to do is, first of all, get them to love themselves and have compassion for themselves, and realize that by doing that, your light's going to shine better and it's going to attract more people to what you're saying. Maya Angelou said, people will forget what you say and what you do, but how you make them feel. That's what they're going to remember, how you make them feel. So it's really important that we feel good. And also, people think it's selfish to take time to exercise, meditate, sleep good, eat the good foods, make the smoothies. It's not selfish. The better we're all connected. The better you feel, the better the world around you feels. The bigger your influence grows. And I'm going to tell you, every time I can add something that's a little more in alignment with my true compassionate nature in my life, I can see a difference. You really start seeing a difference. So I encourage everybody to meditate on what we can do to add more compassion into our lives and the world around us, and act on it. And people, if they want, they can go to aprayerforcompassion.com, aprayerforcompassion.com, and click Take the Challenge, and they can learn more about it. We even are starting compassionate living circles that you can have in your community or in your church. It can be interfaith or whatever, and it's a chance for people to come together, have support for new vegans, and also have tools and resources to help get the message into the spiritual communities. We have films you can get grants to screen, once the contact, once we don't have to do stay distance. But also we're getting ready to do some online events too. We're working on that too. So we really want to get the conversation going, because here's the thing. Whether a minister or somebody wants to go vegan, what I want them to understand is that you probably have somebody in your vegan or in your congregation that's vegan or that was vegan and left because they felt ridiculed. we don't need to ridicule these people. We need to listen to them with respect, and we need to, as vegans, if we have a faith that we believe in, don't let them keep us away. We need to learn to be resilient. I have 2 books I want to recommend to activists or anybody who's wanting to have better relations with people they may disagree with. One is called the Four Agreements, amazing book that really helps you have your peace no matter what's going on around you. And another is the concept, or is the book, and also there's a lot of material about nonviolent communication. The work that Marshall Rosenberg was doing with that is just phenomenal in helping us get to the heart and hearing what our needs are, getting past the judgments, getting past all these things, learning to hear. When what he says is when somebody's yelling at you or they're angry, they're just expressing an unmet need. And so you learn all these need words and all these feeling words, and you learn to see, and you start seeing in people, oh my God, they're not mad at me. They have this need for safety, or they have this need for conformity, or they have this need for this. And I can just tell them, I see you feel a certain way, and that you have, it just teaches you how to communicate with people that's so gentle and so beautiful. And if the world could adopt this, we would have another world,
And what exactly is the vegan challenge?
The compassionate living challenge. That's what I was just talking about a little bit.
What does that entail? Is that like a 30-day challenge, or is that
at one point I was going to put times on it and everything, but what I've turned it into, because I really, even in the film, I was careful never to say, you should do this, you should do that. Personally, I never said that as a narrator. I said, at the end, I challenge us all. I challenge us all to find, I said all of that now. So, and at the end it says, take the challenge, click the, go to and take the challenge.
So there's no blueprint for the challenge that you've come up with?
There is, in a way. What I do is I explain the challenge, or I explain a little bit of where it came from. Then I tell you about my 4 pillars. I have 4 pillars of well-being. Halfway through making the film, I realized if I was going to encourage people to take care of themselves, I better start doing it. So what I discovered for me personally is that if I get good, healthy, nutritious vegan food, plant-based food, getting those smoothies in, taking care of myself, if I exercise, if I meditate and pray, and if I sleep, if I do those 4 things, it's really hard for me to get stressed or upset about that. I mean, I'm telling you, I used to get anxious about stuff, and I'm like, okay, the meditation itself does wonders. But if anybody does those 4 things about every day, you feel good. I know it's a busy world. You do the best you can. This is why I didn't put.
Say the 4 again. 1, 2, 3, 4. Say them quickly.
It's healthy, nutritious food. It's meditation and prayer, exercise, and good sleep. It's like, and they're all listed on there, and there's resources on that site. It tells you a little more suggestions to do, like take the violence out of your diet, watching violent stuff and other things. But it never says you have to do it. This is people can come to where they're at. This is what I want people to come and say, this is for me. I'm doing this for me. You can join our compassionate living circles, and we have a compassionate living group online. You can join that group and get support. But it's really for a person the challenge is more for the person to say, I want to grow and I want to become more compassionate, more spiritual in whatever way.
Is this support group online basically vegans, or are they people who are transitioning who need support? What is the community that you're seeing?
Well,
mostly?
the Facebook group is a lot of people who are already vegan who are offering to be support. And then we have people who are like vegan less than a year, and some people just coming to it. Like making the film, as I traveled around last year, I went to several places 2 or 3 times, that I would meet people who said, I've been vegan for like 6 months because I saw the film. And so, and so many people say, what do I do next? They see the film, what do I do next? That's another thing about the challenge. Even if you don't take the challenge, if you go there, you will see resources. There's a link to take you to a link page of resources to help you find how to be vegan, why to be vegan, how to meditate, how to, it just, all those things we talked about, it's there. And it's a growing page. So if you have suggestions, you can add to it, and we'll continue to have it grow.
Yeah, that's important. And I think that in life in general, everything will grow from the next step anyway. So you don't necessarily have to know what's next. You have to be, like you said, in the present moment, make the decision that feels right, and then be open to receive what's next. It's a discovery process. It's a part of self-discovery, soul discovery, and approaching it from a position of present moment consciousness, as opposed to anxiety of what's next. What's next? You will attract the answer to what's next.
Yes. And I just want to say one thing to go back to what you were saying. This is what making the film taught me more than anything, is because I'm a single dad. I live in an RV in the middle of the woods, and at the time, I had no other. I still do, because I do, because I'm taking everything make, right? Everything comes in now is working on the next film. It's all about service, and I'm happy. During quarantine, being in the woods is like the best place ever. So I have no complaints about that. But I just want to tell people, a lot of people say, I can't, what can I do? Or they get an idea. I used to get an idea. I say, well, I need to figure out who to support it, where to get the camera, where to get this. On this one, this came from a meditation, by the way, the film. And I tried to reject it, but once I committed to it, every step of the way, I had doubts, and every step of the way, the universe showed up. As long as I made the steps out, the universe showed up. It brought the people, it brought the resources, it brought everything. I saw it magically for the last 4 years. So I've come to really believe, because of making the film, we have unseen forces that really want us to succeed and be sustainable. And if we work on their behalf, like at Unity, I learned all these words. You heard of the law of attraction and all that. We learned all that stuff at Unity. We learned all the techniques. But we were trying to manifest the right partner and the right career and all this. And we were pretty successful. But when you apply it to a purpose, it's like rocket fuel. Like the universe is like, hey, you finally woke up to what I wanted you to do. And the other thing, too, is when you become vegan and you take yourself away from the pain and suffering, you feel better. But once you find a way to make a difference and to help other people see it, you will feel great. Because I've never felt better than when I started living my purpose. I still have fears. I still have doubts. Right now, I look at them because I had a lot of insecurity that kept me held back so long, because we live in a culture of shame. So this is why you don't want to trigger people's shame.
Guilt.
We have it tells,
Guilt.
and also, but we have these TV commercials and all these things telling us we're not enough. Shame is feeling unworthy, that I'm not enough. So we all have this kind of thing. So I've battled that many years, but I'll tell you that once you get onto that purpose, that stuff will. It's gone. The whole time, that was just something trying to egg you on to get to where you're trying to be. So
meditate and find your purpose. And one thing, I'm a lawyer. The show's The Laws That Matter here. Sometimes we talk about hard news law. Other times we talk about more the laws that I think really matter, which are these universal spiritual laws, which man-made laws, an intended version of these more enlightened ideals. And as a lawyer, I think I love some of the great spiritual teachers of our time. And they are all called spiritual laws. But if you put it within the framework of the law, and what you just said, I would say that is all about subpoenaing yourself. Subpoena yourself to show up in life, show up for your purpose. And when you do, the universe will speak back. If you listen and you show up, the universe will show you what is next.
Yeah. And also, I'll tell you, I did many years from film school to making this film. I had many years. I did a lot of things. There were times I really thought, I just got to do this to survive. I really don't like doing this job, but I got to survive. But I'm going to tell you, when making this film, everything I did in the last 20 years informed making this film. But those things I thought were just survival were really teaching me something. I want everybody to really be present in whatever they're doing. If you don't feel like you're living your purpose, you are. You're just, you may not be like living it the way I'm living it right now, but you're preparing for it. You're getting all the tools. You're gathering what you need.
Yes.
Purpose changes too.
Purpose is always changing. Everything's always changing. But I think that some people are not listening to their purpose. And that's why they feel depressed and anxiety and they feel exhausted. It's when we listen to our purpose, and we all have different purposes. It's like, like we have all these different organs in our body. Someone's, one's the heart, one's the lungs, one's the kidney. And we all the body cannot operate unless all of those operate together. And we as human beings, we are all assigned these different purposes. And we have to listen to our purpose and show up. And then the law of divine compensation will come into play. So you listened, you showed up, you created this movie. Are you surviving? Are you thriving? Did the universe deliver financially what you need to keep going on your purpose and on your path?
Yes, I'll tell you, everything I've needed has shown up. But I've learned to know what needed and what you want. There's a big difference between I realize that it's a process, and my purpose is going. Like some people might say, I'm going to make this film and set myself up so I could get out of an RV. But the idea is I'm going to do my purpose. I've got all the food I need right now. I got great food. I got, I have everything I need and the money. My bills are being paid. Like I'm being able to pay my bills. it comes in. And I'll tell you, the other thing about money is that there were times where I would get down to $12 in the bank, and when I was making the film, and I would decide that day, instead of running to try to find a freelance job, I would work twice as hard. Like, there are days I can know at least 4 or 5 times where I'd work 2 days straight doing boring kind of technical editing stuff, and then the next day a grant for $25,000 would come in,
That's
or
the way it works
$500 on the
when it's meant to
GoFundMe.
be.
It just showed up. Yeah. And so I don't expect a big thing to fall out. What I need always shows up.
Maybe you should expect it. You might attract it if you expect it. But I think that's true. Like, when you feel an urge to do something, and you feel nudged to do something, and you feel inspired to do something, but then you have all these floods of doubt coming into your mind of, oh, I shouldn't do this because of this, and that's not realistic, and this is going to be hard, and I'm facing this challenge, and I'm facing that challenge. It is so easy to give up and stay in that safe zone, which is not your purpose. Your purpose is to then say, if you're inspired to do something, you have a calling, and you have to listen to it.
That's the word.
Listen to it, you are called to do something. It will deliver what's next. It will show you the way, whatever that way is, whatever your way is. So what's next for you?
Well, right now we're in the very beginning of editing the new film. I've been going through looking at interviews, and we traveled, man. We traveled last year before this hit. Like, we did so much traveling. So the film will be in London and Paris and India and all that. That's happening.
Are you bringing your daughter with you?
Circles. I did. She, not to India. She didn't get to go to India, but India was very intense. I'm glad she didn't go there. It was a very intense time. But the new film, we've already got interviews. Jerome Flynn, who's our executive producer, he joined us in India. So I got to interview him. I interviewed Rich Roll. I interviewed the 2 psychologists and therapists I was talking about. We interviewed so many people. And in India, we saw a lot of magical things happen, because I would tell you, the people there are just so open. The culture is more open to hearing you in a way that Silas would speak, and you would see immediately people like getting it. The lights would go on, because there wasn't the defensiveness. So a lot of what I'm trying to do now is work on that.
Who were those people showing up? Who was that audience?
Well, it was varied. I mean, we were everything from elementary schools to college kids to organizations that were environmental organizations.
And what were those speeches titled? Like, what did you call those lectures to draw the audience?
Well, Silas had a couple different ones he was doing. I don't want to get them wrong. I'll just tell you the subject. Someone was about the environmental, about Vegan World 2026. That, I don't know if you know, but the way it works out, if we keep going the way we're going, like all the wild animals will be gone by 2026. So he has a goal to do that. So we talked about that, why he did that. He talked about a lot about dairy and about Krishna and symbolism. Because in India, if you see the film, you'll see there's still people that really think dairy is like sacred. But what he really had great arguments for that, and the breaking down the symbolism between Krishna and butter and things like that. So I learned so much about those things. And but whether it was the spiritual aspect or the environmental aspect, the people got it. Like, most of them, and the kids would ask these amazing questions. And luckily, I captured almost everything. So hopefully, we'll have some good stuff to share.
Yeah, well, I hope to have Dr. Rao on this show at some point too, and it would be lovely to have a vegan world by 2026. I think what he says about wildlife extinction is so true, and also what is causing our pandemics. We're taking away their natural habitat, forcing them into our cities, forcing them, even if it is bats that infected live animal markets, live animals at a wet market, it's still a natural habitat and deforestation causing extinction, forcing them into our cities because we're taking over, which is then causing pandemics and killing us. So it's a vicious cycle, and it's all connected. Where would you like to leave this audience if they are tuning in and it's not a vegan community, and we're able to speak to those that they're awake. Yeah. They just haven't made this connection.
Yeah, what I would say to anybody is whatever your tradition is, if you happen to be a Christian, because I know a lot of people that are in the Christian tradition that aren't quite getting it yet, and I think what I would say is that and this goes beyond Christianity, but most everything the text that I studied or that I interview people about, they all have a way that you can justify eating an animal, like especially the Bible. But the Bible you can also justify slavery or abusing your children and your wife. Like there's so many ways you can justify things in the Bible. But as a Christian, I would say, what if we brought Jesus back right now and took him to a slaughterhouse? Or what if we took him to a dairy and we had this innocent cow and somebody forcefully inseminates it, and Jesus himself would take the baby away from the mom and cry. I just don't see Jesus doing that. I don't see. So when it comes down to it, I want to remind people that you can justify anything in this world, and we see this happening right and left. But if you can go within and be authentic with yourself and make a commitment to do the least harm and to be the most nonviolent, if you want to feel, we talked about what you put out comes back to you. You want to have peace in your life, you need to live peace in everything you do. And if you're closing your eyes every time you eat and you're eating an animal, I want you to be aware that the money you paid for that animal, you're paying somebody to kill it. And they're babies. They're all babies. I want people to know you're paying for baby innocent animals to be killed. And you may want to consider, like, I wish somebody had told me about the cows. I was 8 years vegan before I realized babies were being taken from their moms and killed at babies and all. I had no idea, and I had a feeling that I would just tell somebody and they would go, oh, I'm vegan. But I really think people need to realize I'm not judging you for not knowing this. I didn't know it. I was 8 years vegan. Yeah. I think you might I wish somebody had told me this. So I'm telling you because it's a gift.
Yeah. And I think that there's a lot of things, like I've been vegan my whole life, that I've even recently learned. I co-hosted one of the New Day New Chefs cooking shows with Jane Velez Mitchell. It's now on Amazon Prime. You should download it and watch it. And they made a vegan deviled eggs recipe. And I did not know, as embarrassing as it is, I did not know what chicken culling was until this year. And I've spent my lifetime as vegan. I did not know what chicken culling is. And if you don't know what chicken culling is and you're watching this, you can Google it on YouTube. It's CULLING, and that you will see it's gender discrimination. Meat and dairy is race discrimination. We have incredible cruelty. I mean, we are separating the female and the male chicks because the females can, I guess, lay more eggs and the males are useless. And the males are going on conveyor belts by the millions, being grinded alive into mulch, or they're being gassed. And yes, that includes organic free-range farms. Those are not humane farms. That's organic free-range farms are, and who knows what our numbers are? They say there's 3 billion animals killed a day for our food. I don't even know if they're counting the chicken culling and the murderous acts that are happening for meat to be on our plate. I mean, they're probably just discarding these baby chicks and not even counting their lives. I bet the numbers are so astronomically higher than the $1 trillion that we already can count of taking life for food on our plate.
Yeah.
So, well,
Well, the only thing I'll say too is just remember, when you do spend that dollar or whatever you're buying, if you're buying something that it causes suffering, you're making a vote. You're saying, this is the world I want. I just want people to realize we all have power, and our vote, our dollar vote, is the most important vote we have. And in the last 4 years, I've seen the world shifting because more and more people are choosing to buy organic, vegan, and the world is shifting. We're getting more options. Now, what's unfair, and we'll touch it right now, what's unfair is what you're talking about. We are not purchasing the dairy, but the government is buying it. This is what's unfair. They're taking our money. We're voting with our money saying we don't want this. And then yet they are saying, but we're going to keep it afloat. This is where at some point, I'm hoping that this lawsuit will bring that into the picture. Like if hemorrhaging so bad because people are making another choice, then they need to make another choice of growing something else that's not violent. Yeah. And it's easy. We can do it. People like the Rancher Advocacy Program, Renee and Rowdy Girl, the work they're doing. If somebody is a rancher or is somebody in the chicken industry or whatever industry, and you want help and you want to get out, there's ways. We have people that's their job to help you get out of there.
Right.
So please reach out.
Yeah, and these bailouts, they need to stop
Yes.
bailing out meat and dairy and start putting the money into it's a horrible scenario because these people, it's their job, it's their livelihood. So the money needs to be bailing them out, not bailing meat and
Yes.
dairy out, bailing them out, giving them jobs in another industry within agriculture, just not animal agriculture, and we would solve all the world's problems. But the lawsuit that just happened right now with the USDA is not really about government bailouts, but it's saying it's a civil rights lawsuit, saying now it's racist to be forcing people of color or immigrants to work in these slaughterhouse conditions amidst a pandemic and taking away their civil rights and their right to sue, which normally they would have no rights, but the American civil liberties groups that got together, I don't believe it's not the ACLU, but other groups that got together are saying you cannot accept federal funds for bailouts and then use that funds to discriminate in the workforce. It is a form of slavery. So we're out of time, but thank you so much for joining us. Yes. And I think you left us on a perfect note for me to transition to the next section, because you did say that every dollar you spend is about the world we wish to live in. And I'm the founder and CEO of BeVeg International, which is a vegan certification firm. And we certify vegan globally. We have 2 trademarks, and our trademark is represented on every continent except Antarctica, so 6 continents. And I started this because I believed that there is no law around veganism. The word vegan is not defined. It's like the Wild West. It's very much a gray area. There's no, at this point, accredited ISO vegan standard. However, that's changing with BeVeg, and we'll have an announcement in a few weeks. But it's very important to not only try to switch to a plant-based diet, but to look for a vegan certification mark that's reliable. And that is because if you are looking for a certified, anyone can claim vegan, because the law doesn't hold any vegan claims accountable. So there's no integrity in a vegan claim, and who knows by what definition and by what scheme. It's important to claim vegan by a standard that is outlined and defined and accredited. And then that can be trusted. And why is that important? Because number one, a lot of people who make products and launch products, they don't know for sure if their product is vegan because they're not investigating the source ingredients. They're not investigating the suppliers. They're not investigating even what happens at the manufacturing facilities. So it's really important because so many times people will apply and they will fail on a product or all products based on one ingredient, whether it's sugar, which could have natural charcoal, which is bone char, or a whey ingredient, which is a dairy derivative. And they have a choice at that point. They can then fail, or they can switch their ingredient. And if they switch their ingredient to pass, they have affected the supply chain. Now the account that is using bone char in their sugar has just lost an account that was buying their sugar in large amounts to fund that product. So now the sugar supplier goes, it comes down to the bottom dollar. It's always come down to dollar. So now that sugar supplier might say, maybe I should go vegan. Do I really need to use bone char in my sugar? Or maybe I should market vegan too, so I can jump on this bandwagon of this plant-based lifestyle. And it really does affect the movement. So every dollar you spend, to go back to what you say, should be spending on a certified vegan product with a label so you know it is trusted. It is always good to think consciously and say, if you don't see the label, obviously go the plant-based route. But I'm always one to say, I would go to growing up, I'd go to a steak restaurant. I don't eat steak. I'd order the plate of veggies, the baked potato, and the salad. But I was very much aware that because I was ordering anything there, that my dish was going to pay their overhead to keep their lights on. So it really is all about the world you want to live in, and think about every dollar you spend, because the meat industry wouldn't exist if it wasn't about money and greed, the multi-billion-dollar industry killing trillions of animals. But so on that note, I'm going to go to our vegan certified brand of the week. But Thomas, it was such a pleasure speaking with you. I've really enjoyed our conversation, and you're welcome back anytime. When does your video launch?
You're talking about the new film? It'll be 2021. Okay. I've got a lot of work to do.
Yeah, well, but we have Beverly Miller Christian watching right now, and she says, is the film available now? So to Beverly, who's watching, the film will be available in 2021.
Now, A Prayer for Compassion is available now.
Yes,
It is
that
on
one is.
Amazon. It's on Amazon Prime and on Vimeo on demand. You can go to A Prayer for Compassion, and there are links there.
Yeah.
And we have DVDs and stuff too. So.
And it's in the comments right here. I see a couple people
Perfect.
put the link up for prayerforcompassion.com.
Perfect.
So,
Perfect.
yes. Well, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
I enjoyed speaking with you. You're an enlightened being. Keep up the good work. Spread the gospel, like you said, the good news. Right?
All right.
Okay.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Thomas.
Namaste.
Namaste. Okay, now we're going to move to the BeVeg Certified Vegan Product of the Week, which is a brand that I'm very proud to be behind. Okay, sorry. Okay, wait a minute. There we go. Sorry. Hi, Jeff. Clean Machine. How are you?
Good.
Thanks for
How are
making
you?
time to make it today with us.
Likewise. Yeah, it's a pleasure to be on the show with you.
Yeah, thank you. So I this is Jane Velez Mitchell's network, and I stay when I go to Los Angeles with Jane Velez. And last time I was there, I was raiding her cabinets and was so excited to see your products in them. So tell us a little bit about Clean Machine and why vegans should have your products, which I'm reaching for right now to show off. It looks like you have them in your background as well, but here's.
Yay.
Yeah, and here's the vegan logo.
I'm a 35-year vegan, vegan for the animals. So it's great.
I there?
So.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know. My screen went. Oh boy, I don't know what happened here with the screen. Well, it's working on my laptop, so maybe I should switch to that. Okay, let me switch. Give me 1 second. Sorry about this. This is what happens when you switch between people. Wait. Okay, I'm moving the camera to a different screen, and now I'm way low. But here we go. So tell us about your vegan journey.
Sure. I had a lot of life circumstances. I lost my father, my mother, both my brothers very early in life, and fell into a deep depression and got into drugs and alcohol, the whole works, to try to deal with the depression and even suicide. And I met somebody who really helped me through that and reconnect to my love. And it was such an overwhelmingly powerful experience. I quit drinking, quit smoking, quit doing drugs, and quit eating all animal products in one day. And that was 35 years ago and never gone back. So, but in that experience, I really discovered something about myself, is that I was looking at the world as like, okay, I'm a compassionate person. I'm a caring person. And I believe in honesty, integrity, all those good things. But I see a world around me of people cheating and lying and stealing and taking, and I'm like, what am I doing here? Do I belong here? And when I had that experience, I reconnected to the love in my heart, and I realized at the moment that, I'm not about here to get something out of life. I actually feel like I came here to give something. And just like a doctor goes to a hospital, because that's where the people are who are sick, where they are needed most. And I think those people who are woke, like you said, are totally awoke, realize, wait a minute, there are a lot of people here that need awakening and that need help. So at that moment, not only did I make all those changes in my life, I dedicated the rest of my life to helping others try to make those changes. Mm-hmm. So I said, okay, so I was a junior Olympic swimmer. I was an athlete, bodybuilder, still am at 57. And vegan. Yeah, 35 years vegan. So that
dispels any myths about being vegan and having athletically
at any age. Look, I'll be turning 60 in a couple of years, and there's no reason why you can't be in total health all the way to the end of your life. Mm-hmm. So I said, all right, well, let's look at it. What are the two probably biggest things that people connect with in trying to get fit or healthy? And that is obviously nutrition, what we eat, and exercise, right? Mm-hmm. Two parts of the whole. But I felt there in exercise nutrition, most of the stuff out there was crap. It was full of, it was steroids or dangerous chemicals or things like that. And I said, there needs to be an option for people who are serious about their health and their fitness levels. And there needs to be a vegan option out there. And I said,
right.
My wife said, stop bitching about it and go do something about it.
That goes back to earlier on the show where you talked about your calling, your purpose. You felt something, you made it happen, you followed it.
So yeah, and it's been my life's passion since then, since 1985 when I made that change.
And when did Clean Machine start? How long ago?
So 8 years ago. I started Clean Machine. I said, that's it. I want to change the way the fitness industry approaches. So I really wanted to, so I was definitely and still am mostly whole food. I actually went raw for 4 years, completely 100% raw. But I know the value of whole food plants. And I was saying, all right, well, how do we get more of these plants that are exceptional in nature but aren't part of our regular food choices, which are in typical grocery stores, right? So I said, all right, well, how do we get clean, natural, completely vegan, certified vegan, BeVeg, certified vegan.
Certified vegan by BeVeg.
BeVeg. So,
yeah,
how do we get these to people who want products that you can get? So I was researching some plants, some amazing plants. The first one was ahi flower. Clinically proven, published human study, 400% more effective than any other plant-based omega-3. The only one actually shown to be the equivalent of fish oil. So I was like, wow, this is a huge breakthrough, but nobody has ever heard of ahi flower, right? And I really wanted to bring some of these exceptional plants to market where people didn't even know about them, much less use them. They're not in our food supply. You don't find them in a grocery store. So we did that, launched it. It won this award right here, the Nexty Award for Best Supplement of the Year out of all supplements.
Congratulations.
Thank
yes.
You. Wow. And we won it again in 2018 for the protein that you just held up. So this plant called lentine is extraordinary. Yes.
The vanilla chai.
Yeah, so clean green protein, and it's green because we use the whole plant. Most of the plant proteins on the market use plant isolates where they just isolate out the protein. We use the whole plant. All we do is dry it and powder it. So you're getting whole food nutrition there. All that nutrition you see on there, that's from the actual plant. There's no added synthetic vitamins or minerals at all. That is just real whole food nutrition. So it's exceptional. It's the highest in nutrient density of any plant discovered, higher than spirulina or kale or spinach or even moringa, which was considered the highest. Higher in protein than pea, rice, hemp, soy, all of them. Actually, the closest to human proteins that is out there. So just a phenomenal plant, and nobody had this. I was first to bring this to market too. And again, we won the Nexty Award for Best Supplement of the Year. So that's what I want to do, is try to bring some of these exceptional plants out there to people, make them available so that they can increase both their nutrition and their fitness, and do it without harming any animals.
And where can people find this amazing product by Clean Machine, or products?
Yes, so we are on Amazon, and of course you can go to cleanmachineonline.com and you can purchase there. You can find out more information on our website as well, and then you can check us out on Instagram and Facebook at Clean Machine Fit.
And what about in stores? Are you in stores?
We are in some stores, but we have actually intentionally pulled out of most of the major retail. That way we can offer better prices directly to the consumer. Because obviously if you sell to a retailer, they've got to take a portion of that price, and then you have to build that price in. And this way we can make really high, expensive ingredients available at prices that people can afford.
So available and affordable.
Available and affordable for the best in omega-3, the best in superfoods, the best in plant protein, and the best in hormone development too as well. All the best that nature has to offer, all backed by published research. And
you said you're running a special right now for this month. So what's that special?
Yes, we're celebrating.
We're going to do this.
We're celebrating our anniversary this month in July. So for all of July to July 31st, it's buy one, get one 50% off. So a great time to try the products if you're interested. And we have a 60-day money-back guarantee if you don't like for any reason, so you don't even have to worry. So it's risk-free trial and great price to try it too.
Mm-hmm. And are you normally at, I know right now amidst COVID, we're not really having vegan fests and plant-based expos, but are you normally at those events?
Yes, we do lots of veg fests. We're at Vegan Street Fair. When it happens again out in California, in New York City, we're at the Plant-Based World Expo, which is the largest of its kind. So we'll definitely be there again next year, hopefully.
Yeah, I know. Maybe it'll be a Zoom expo.
Yes.
So any final thoughts, anything you'd want viewers to know or find you at? I know that you said online, Amazon, your website, but anything else you'd like? Any final thoughts?
Yeah, I just encourage you people. I know you're doing an amazing job. I loved listening to your previous guest about compassion. I think there are multiple ways at coming to this. You can come to it internally, like I did, from the inside out, basically having a heart change and doing it from a compassion level. And there's also the science. So I'm big on the science. Come to Clean Machine Fit or check me out at Jeff Palmer. I'm Jeff with a G, Geoff Palmer. And I'm constantly posting the latest cutting edge research, brand new research on the microbiome that shows our entire microbiome is designed to digest plants. That consuming animals produces a chemical called TMA or TMAO that actually starts the whole process of cardiovascular disease. Consuming plants actually does the reverse. It heals and repairs and nutrifies and actually can reduce inflammation. So it's clear by our microbiome, is becoming painfully clear by the new research that's coming out. We were meant to put plants in there. That's what they're all there for. Digestive plants, yeah.
And science will support these laws anyway of extending our circle of compassion to all being, because that just proves we have better health. And this is a product that makes us thrive. We're not just surviving, we're thriving here as vegans. You, congratulations, have chosen a life purpose, which is making a difference. And anyone can do that, whether it's making a film like our last guest or launching a product. But you have paved the path forward for those to choose a compassionate lifestyle and maintain a healthy, vibrant life at the same time. So congratulations on that. And I'm going to tell everyone one last time that you should buy this. It not only is it on Jane Unchained News right now, here's Clean Machine products, but it is in Jane's cabinet in her kitchen. And now it's in mine. So we're not just here like promoting a product here that's just certified vegan by BeVeg. This is a product that many vegans are standing behind. I actually also spoke last night with the editor-in-chief of Veg World magazine. And she also said that she lives off of the vanilla chai. So Clean Machine. So
awesome.
Buy it. You can get your discount this month. And it's certified vegan by BeVeg. Congratulations. And it's very important that when anyone's searching to buy a product, that they are buying a product that is a vote for the type of world they want to live in. And if you're watching and you have a product you wish to get certified vegan, if you go to janeunchained.com and go through the link there, your certification fee will go to Jane Unchained News, so we can continue reporting on the laws that matter. Thank you, Jeff, for jumping in today. I know it was a last-minute call, but that's the nature of TV sometimes. So thank you for honoring our last minutes. And for everyone else that's watching, we'll be back here next week on Wednesday at noon. Thank you so much for joining us, and see you soon. Bye.